Well, here it is, the actual $99 netbook computer from CVS Pharmacy. That's not even a discount price, that's the everyday low price for this lovely little Sylvania computer. As you can see, it's actually about the same size as the 7-inch TV that I also bought at CVS Pharmacy a year ago for under $99. And it is a real computer, but it is not quite a real PC. It runs an operating system called Windows CE, which is sort of a miniature version of Windows 98. So if you're a fan of Windows 98, and I actually am, this will be a very familiar operating system. It boots in under 30 seconds. That's sweet, but that's the only thing it does quickly. Everything else is really slow. Now the first thing after it boots is you have to click here on this Wi-Fi power to turn on the wireless internet. And I found this a little confusing. When it says power on, it really means the power is off. So you click on that, and then it says power off, by which it really means the power is on. Okay, once you get past that, this little icon comes up saying you're wireless. And the first time you run the computer, you click on that and you set up your wireless network. But I've already done that. It was in the instructions, and it was pretty easy. Once you figure out you have to turn the wireless power on in that way. And then, you know, you have what seems to be a real Windows Internet computer. You got your Internet Explorer. There's some very stripped down versions of Word, or Office rather, players. But as soon as you go to a familiar website, you discover Windows CE defaults to the mobile versions of most websites. This is a complete waste of time on a computer that has a real screen and a real keyboard. This is not a video phone, it's a cell phone. Although actually it is. What this is a cell phone with no phone and a large screen and a keyboard. That's sort of what's inside it computer-wise. But you can click here on Classic and go to the real Google. I also bookmarked the real versions of my favorite websites in the non-mobile version. So that makes it a lot easier to go to Yahoo. If you just type in yahoo.com, you get some other Yahoo, not the Yahoo that you probably wanted. And the screen is about the same resolution as a DVD. I believe they say it's 800 by 480. So it's more than adequate for web surfing. Now these pages are actually coming up pretty quickly today, but the problem often is it sort of brings up half the page, then you click here to make it go down, just like I'm doing, and it doesn't always go down right away. You'll click on something else to bring up the page, and you know, text sites actually work pretty well. And the instructions say this is an effortless way to watch video and go to Facebook. Well, effortless wouldn't really be my word for it, but it does work. However, again, the limitations seem to be a lot of them in the Windows CE. Now, at first I was overjoyed that it had a standard operating system and not something weird invented by the Chinese. But it turns out that Windows CE has a lot of the annoying features of Windows without most of the abilities. For example, this browser, it looks like Internet Explorer, and it is actually a version of Internet Explorer 6, from what I understand. But when you try to click on the video, again, this computer advertises it's great for playing video. More often than not, these video links try to bring you to a plugin, such as the name of the popular one's escaping me, but whatever it is, this computer doesn't support it. So you can click play video all day, and chances are it won't play. Now, as I said, it does support YouTube. Oh, it does have this very nice Windows 98 style icon, which brings you the desktop back even while you're running programs. So it does multitask. It's so much like Windows. It's a shame that it's not a little more like Windows. but if you knew the specs of the computer, you'd know why. It has 128 meg of RAM, which is a little small. Instead of a hard disk, it has a 2 gigabyte solid state memory, which is divided into two partitions, a operating system partition and a user partition, but you can write files in either of them. It's just like Windows. You can open folders, write files in it, download files, and you can add more memory through the slots in a few ways. Now this is YouTube mobile, and this works. The problem is, well, we'll get to the problem in a minute, but let's say, for example, you want to find my very popular video called Rocket Blows Up. This is one of my own originals, and not rockets, and I highly recommend it. You know, having a full-size keyboard, or sorry, a full keyboard, it's not a full-size keyboard, is very nice, but it's still a little small, and the space key sticks a lot on mine, and that makes it just that much harder to type on compared to a better keyboard. And by the way, Rocket Blows Up is the first one you'll get if you type Rocket Blows Up. The sound is extremely soft and horrible infidelity. Now, curiously, to get it full screen, you click above this little status bar and that freezes it. Then you click again. Oh, look, there goes the rocket. Now, the problem with the mobile version of YouTube, first of all, the search features are not very comprehensive. It doesn't let you, say, order them in any particular way. But curiously, the videos are all really low quality. Even if you click on that link that says high quality, these are the most pixelated YouTube videos I've ever seen. So what happens if you go to the real YouTube and try to watch videos there? Well, the problem I've found is usually it doesn't work. You get some kind of a nutty error message. Either it can't find the file. We'll just try this first one and see what happens. But even on the few times I did get this to work, it still worked only in that very low quality mode. So you get a Windows 9 media player. It says locating server. By the way, the web browser works to the extent that if you have web-based email without video in it, that'll probably work great. Oops. Unable to establish a connection to server. I see that message a lot when I try to use YouTube, the real site, as opposed to mini YouTube. So, kind of disappointing. The screen is certainly large enough, high enough resolution, and by the way, the download speed is quite good. I was getting probably no less than half the speed that I get from a real computer downloading content. I'm just going to show you a few of the features of the computer. It has some nice features connectivity-wise. You've got, maybe hard to see, you've got an SD slot there, which either lets you watch your pictures or video, or you can use that as an external hard drive. You've got both a headphone jack and a mic jack. That headphone jack is really necessary to get any decent sound. You've got two USB ports here. These are only 1.1 ports, and they say they're dedicated to a mouse and a keyboard. Haven't tried it. But you have a real USB 2.0 port here for memory sticks or other things. You can connect a printer, but the problem is it better be a printer that you can get a driver for Windows CE. And according to the manual, that's just portable printers. It's got a hardwired Ethernet port and a power jack. And on the bottom, it looks like you probably can take the battery pack off to replace that if it goes bad. It's got a few indicator lights. And the touchpad's actually pretty good. It's got these two large mouse-type buttons. Work pretty well. And there was the on-off button. The speakers are pathetic. But again, the screen is actually decent. The way it flips up is pretty good. The problem is it doesn't stay at every conceivable angle as well as it's Now the question is this computer worth $99? And the answer is absolutely. But is it worth wasting your time with at any price? And that's where I'm a little more hesitant. So I went to Best Buy to see, what could I buy for $300 that would be better than this. See, it's got a Windows Media Player. It just doesn't work when you try to connect to the web a lot of the time. See, I'll click on Web here. Anyway, the truth is that when you get to larger computers, you cannot buy one with a 7-inch screen. Something did eventually come up on the Windows Media Player. What I was saying is, they don't actually make 7-inch notebooks or netbooks at Best Buy, and they don't have any without a hard drive. So basically, you're in a more advanced, larger, heavier, more power-consuming computer if you go beyond this. Now let's see if we could actually pull up a classic rock radio station with the Windows Media Player. It's interesting to compare this to my last MP3 player, which also cost $100. That had 1 gigabyte of memory. This has 2 gigabytes of memory. And that had no screen, no keyboard, wasn't a computer, wasn't a web browser, and didn't have wireless internet connectivity, which this does. I emphasize the wireless internet is your own Wi-Fi. This is not a subscription-based G3, G4, G5 device. Well, I'm not hearing any Beatles yet. So, oh, here we go. Listen. We'll click on Listen. You have to double-click on a lot of things. The feature of Windows 98 that lets you tell it to let you single-click, couldn't find it. This has similar control panel and so on features, but a lot of the options has less options. For example, you can set the time in the usual way by right-clicking on the time, but it didn't have the feature to let you get the correct time from the internet, which, come to think of it, is a Windows XP feature. There's announced that Microsoft is working on a newer version of Windows CE, so the next generation of this computer might have a better operating system. But most of the features I read about it sounded like they were adding touch screen features. This is what I call a touchless screen. See, you don't need to touch it to make the computer work. The computer works completely without touching the screen. So, in summary, no webcam. But other than that, this has pretty much every feature you'd expect in a full-size netbook computer, except the price, the speed, and the functionality. And it's the speed and the functionality that are the real deal killer. I'll explain a little more about the functionality problem. This does not use an Intel compatible or PC compatible processor. It uses a processor called, and I'm going to look it up, a VIA 8505. Oh, look, we got an error message. Battery! Well, the battery lasts pretty well, like at least 2 hours, but not long enough to get this website to come up. See, we could have been listening to the radio already if it worked. The fact the battery is going to go before it works is not the battery's fault. It's the fault of the computer. So anyway, because it doesn't have a PC processor, many plugins that you might download won't run because it doesn't have the same compatibility with binary files like drivers and plugins. So unless the plugin is specifically written to work on an 8505 processor, your Java or Flash or whatever simply isn't going to work. And you can download an MP3 file and play it. You can download an MPEG movie file and play it. But if you try to click and stream a download, that generally doesn't work. So in conclusion, great price, interesting marketing gimmick, but it's really more of a waste of time than it is a savings of money.